Welcome to Stayf Doodles. I'm Stefan, a Dutch artist, and in this video I'm going to show you my new BrushSet Stayf DOTS, which are halftone brushes for Procreate. I've created these halftones with the BrushSet Stayf DOTS, and they're different kind of brushes. And I'm just going to open up the file again and just show you how you can use these brushes. What I do is, well, this is a comic I'm working on. It's called Horace Hippo Returns, and it's placed in the 1920s. And around that time, the 1920s and the 1930s, they used a lot of halftones in comics. So this is just a file I drew in Procreate, and I'm just going to make a new layer to place the halftone dots. And this is the brush set. These are 20 seamless halftone brushes, and they're built up from 10% until 85%. I'm just going to do the background, and I'm going to use a line brush. And they're built up from 10%, and then it's 25%, 50 until 85%. And the brushes and the halftones are set to the screen, so you can use them and exchange them, and then the halftones are still in place. So I'm just going to adjust the size of the brush, and you can see the distance between the lines are still the same. So in this way, you can paint halftones into your illustrations or comics. And this is 10%, and this is a line halftone. And I'm just going to draw this entire panel, and I'm just going to fast forward this until I have the entire background with the 10% halftone line brush. This one's called the Stayf Halftone Line 10%. So now I have painted everything with the 10% line brush, the line halftone. And now I'm gonna switch to 25%, because you can, with these brushes, you can create gradients. So I'm now going to apply the 25%, and I want this part to be a little bit lighter because projector is projecting some light. So this part is going to be lighter, and I just want a gradient that goes darker to the right. So I'm not going to apply the 25%, just starting off right here. And you can adjust the size of the brush. And it has some built-in gradient in the brush. So if you apply less pressure, then you don't have the hardness of the total brush. And when you press harder, you get a thicker line. So around this point, I'm gonna switch to another brush, which is the 50%, and just lay it over a little bit to get the gradient, and just lightly press to get a nice gradient. Make it a little bit smaller. And you can, paint horizontal or vertical. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm gonna switch to 85%. So here it's much darker. And these brushes are also set to the screen. So the angle you're drawing, now it's just straight ahead, but when you tilt your canvas, the direction of the halftones will also change. And then you can, create some different effects as well. So these brushes are all set to the same distance. So that's why you can make a gradient like this. And I'm just gonna add some of it in here as well. Because it's a little bit darker here. Just the size. And these are the line brushes, but I also have the dot brushes. I'm just going to show you in a minute. And back in the day they used sheets of halftone, and then they would, cut it out. Now I'm gonna switch to the Halftone Dots, and they're built up from 10% until 85. So it's 10%, 25, 50, 75, and 85. I'm just going to use the 10% on the face of Oris Hippo. Because he's a little bit in shade. Also the rest of his body. So this is 10% and these are very tiny dots. I'm gonna switch to 25%. And you see that they fit on top of each other. So I'm going to use it on the projector. And you can change between the percentages. So this is a little bit lighter. And I'm going to use the 50% for this part of the projector. And the brushes are seamless, because sometimes you have halftone brushes and when they're not seamless, you will see some blocks of the grid that's underneath the brush. And I've made them that they're just seamless and that you can use them on top of each other. Now I'm going to use the 75% to make this darker. This guy is even more in the shade, so I'm going to use 50% on top of him. In this way, you know, you can, if you have some lettering, then it will pop out a little bit more. Maybe do this with the same halftone. And you can, of course, erase some parts because the light is coming from the left. So I'm just going to use the eraser and just use an ink brush, the Stayf Chalon ink. Doesn't matter if it's what kind of eraser it is. Then you can create some, you know, lights in the shade to make it pop out a little bit more. And there are a lot of other brushes as well. So these are just the regular halftone brushes, the dot brushes. But I also have a distressed dot pattern, and they're a little bit more distressed. When you zoom in, you can see that they're, you know, build up in a different manner. I've got another one which is a 50% and it has a different structure, like it is printed on newspaper. Then you get a more distressed brush, and these you can apply over and over again and, you know, get some gradients as well. Then I have another dot pattern which is called the Stayf Dots Scatter, and it has a different pattern in the dots. And most of these are based on the Band-Aid dots because they had sheets of different kind of halftones, and this is a more irregular pattern. And I also have some scalable brushes, so when you scale them they get bigger or smaller. So this is the Stayf Halftone Scale Thin, and the way you scale them, the brushes or the dots will get wider apart and bigger. And, you know, you can play around with these kind of brushes if you want to create some gradients or make it a little bit bigger. Then you can create some nice effects. I have 3 of these kind of brushes. This is the Stayf Halftone Scale Medium, which has a bigger dot, And with these brushes you can, scale it up to very big dots or smaller dots. And when you play around with the size, you can, create some different sizes of dots. And this is even a different pattern. It's more of a random pattern, and this is based on an original Band-Aid dot structure. And they also are scalable. And here's the original, the circular Band-Aid dot, and they use that a lot in print as well. And it has sort of a circular pattern. And you also can use this with different colors. And I've one that has a gradient to it. So when you reapply it, and it's also scalable, then you can create some nice gradients. And this is also an original Band-Aid dot pattern. Just zoom in. And these are scalable. So this is the gradient, and I also have a scatter version of it. Which is not scalable. From the 1920s until the 1950s, they also used two colors to print comics. And you can also achieve that same effect with the Stayf dots. I'm just going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to choose a red color. And what you can do with the halftone dots, when you turn the screen, you can apply the dot patterns, but also the line patterns with a different color. And I'm just going to use the 50% dot. And when you apply it, you get sort of a brown tone to it. But you need to put it in angle, because when you use it like this, then you get a moire effect, and just, puts the color on top of it. So what you need to do is create an angle in which you can apply the red color, and then the dots go in between. It's the same for the coat. And you of course can use 100%, then you just can use an ink brush to ink it. So this bow tie is pure red. Also his mouth. And this was a way to save printing costs because they only need to use 2 colors to print with. And I'm just going to make the jacket of Horus Hippo red. And now I have to layer on top of the gray halftone, so I'm just going to drag it underneath. And now you can see that there on top is a gray halftone or a black halftone. Then it creates a dark red. And that is how they, with 2 colors could make different tones. So you have pink, which is 25% until 85% of a dot. Would make pink. And when you paint on top of it or use pure red with black halftones on top of it, you get a darker shade of red. And with these effects you can create some really retro feel kind of comics. But with these brushes you really need, if you want to do bigger parts of halftones, you have to keep it in the same angle. Otherwise I'm just going to show you when I'm applying the dots in a different angle. So this is red. And when you change the angle a little bit, then you get a moire effect. And that's not what you want. What I sometimes do, and I've made other videos about it, using the halftones in Procreate, is to create a halftone and then with the mask out the halftones you need. So what you can do is just gonna make a new layer and then create a halftone, well, in an angle, of course. Just do it quick like this. Even if you want to do a gradient in the entire background, you can use the different kind of brushes. So I'll make it a little bit darker here. So I have the halftone and then make a mask. And then you can use the mask to cut out the halftones you want. So now you have a set of halftones beneath the mask. And then you can, just mask it out. And that's what, actually happened when they used the halftone sheets. They would put it on top of the original and then cut out the halftones. If you have more questions about the Stayf DOTS brush set, please let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, because each time I upload a new video, you get a notification. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!